Okay. Good morning and welcome to My Art Pixie. My name is Maria. I am behind My Art Pixie and all the things that we do on this channel. Let's see here, just welcoming people in. So my main focus on this channel is to um, help other artists to discover, play, and grow in their art practice. And as I go through my journey as an artist, I'm able to share some of my experiences and things that I have gone through and that I can then help you. And so that's why I'm here today. I want to talk about all of the tools that you can use with your watercolor junk journals. So I shared on my channel a couple weeks ago about the watercolor junk journals that I create, and a lot of people were excited about it, and that made me excited. And I have done some. I think it was like a year ago. I did a mixed media series. I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 videos, and they were all about mixed media and the different tools that you can use. It's very, very similar to this using a watercolor junk journal. Um, the only difference really is how you're going to put it together. So you're taking the idea of watercolor and the idea of junk journals, and you are merging the two together to create just fabulousness. So if you are here, welcome. And as people come in, I will be checking the feed for any questions or anything like that. Also, if you are looking, or if you're here for the replay, and if you have any questions that maybe weren't covered, put them below and I will try to answer them um, as I can. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I kind of have an outline of what I want to talk about today concerning any supplies. I am in my art studio. So you can see this is if you haven't seen it, I do have a video that goes into my art studio a little bit more. But this is my favorite piece that holds all the bits and bobs of my life. I've got old watercolor from when I was in college, all the way to the toppers for my wedding cake or the Lego figures. I've got watercolor brushes that my kids have given me, and just all kinds of things in there. I just love it. And then over here, you can see this is where I do a lot of my mixed media and oil painting. And then down here, I have some of my um, journals. So I've got my watercolor, my mixed media um, journals that I have just here so that they're nice and handy. And then my desk is in front of me, of course. Okay, so let's see if anyone has jumped on. Okay, so before I dive into the basic supplies and things that you could use, I do want to say that I was going to have this live on Thursday. I had it all planned out, and then we had a storm hit Wednesday evening that knocked out our electricity, and we didn't have electricity for 24 hours, and so I wasn't able to do the live on Thursday. So I sent an email out to those who received my newsletter yesterday, and I let them know what happened and that I planned on doing a live today instead, to kind of make up for that. And so thank you for all of you who have been flexible about that. It's really hard to say you're going to do something and then it doesn't work out, but that's life. That is just the way it goes, right? So, so thank you all for being flexible. If you're not on my newsletter, you can jump on there, go to my website, myartpixie.com, and you can sign up for the website. That's usually how I best, get the word out other than social media. So if you're not a part of that community, I would love for you to be. So go jump over there. Also, I will pop it in there. Also on My Art Pixie, I have a supply list. So I'm going to actually pop that in there too. So I have a supply list on there. I'm constantly growing that list. Something that, see if I can find it. Something that I'm constantly adding to because, as you know, we need those supplies and things. It's nice when someone else has kind of gathered all of those items and put them together for you. So I totally get that. Let's see. Okay. Think. Here we go. So I will share that in the chat. I will also put it in the description. So if you're going to watch this live later, it will also be in the description. Because I'm not sure if the replay you get to see what's in the chat. So so I will put it in the description too, so you can go check that out. It does have affiliate links to Amazon, so just keep that in mind. But if you use those links, that's a little way that you can support me as well through the Amazon affiliate links. So thank you for that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into these supplies. And if I have any additional questions pop up, I will get to them. But some of these are questions that I have already received. And so I would just want to kind of go over them and answer those questions for you, especially if you come back and do the replay. Okay, so the basic supplies. So basic supplies really comes down to you need an art journal. You can do a DIY like I did on my channel, and you need watercolor paper. So I'm going to show you a couple that I have. So these are some of the ones that I've been working on, and they're ongoing. This one here is a journal from Archer and Olive. So you can literally get any, journal that you want, and you can start working within that. I've had this one for about 2 years, and I still have about, I don't know how many pages that is, but I still have so many in the back that I can work on. But some of these pages are simply just watercolor, and then I've added like a little tab or something. Others are more with like acrylic paint and stuff. That is in here as well. And then I've just done some others that are more like collage, and I've got watercolor in them within. Here's one that's definitely more of a mixed media page rather than this is watercolor in the background here, but it's more of like a mixed media page. There's just so many in here. So this is a mix of mixed media, watercolor. Here I have added, I did this chrysanthemum illustration. And so this is the illustration. This is the sticker that I then made. Let's see if I can move over there. It's kind of backwards. So, so then I did the sticker. So I added my art that I had done within that, and then I wrote inside of that. So that's one way that you can do it. Just buy a journal and then start adding to the pages. And the beauty of watercolor is that it usually goes on most papers pretty nicely. You can add some medium to it. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But you can do that as well. But usually if you have good water control, which means you're not flooding the paper with water, because then it's going to tear and things. But if you have a good water control, then you can use pretty much any paper. This is the one that I created the other day that I shared. And inside of it, I've got my watercolor pages that I am working on. And what I used with this was the bands to hold together. If you haven't seen that, you can go check it out. But you add the elastic bands, and then you can add inside of it, you can insert the watercolor pages. And then those become your pages within the book. So then that brings me to the watercolor paper. So I use this Canson watercolor, and I do get the bigger paper. This is 11 by 15 inches, and I do get this bigger paper so that I could cut it down to fit, whatever book that I'm working in. I have one over here that I've also shown, and it has a fabric cover. And inside, I've cut those watercolor pages down even smaller. So they come out, and it's just a watercolor paper. I've scored it with a scoreboard. You don't need a scoreboard. It just kind of helps with the crease. And then, see if I can show you, but then you just slide it in, and you've got your pages there. So something dropped. Oh, a doily. So I'm going to stick that doily back in there and close that back up. So this is just small and compact. You could even take this with you on vacation or something like that. It's pretty great. So those are the basics that you're going to need to get started. But then also your watercolor. So I have Daniel Smith watercolor that I use, and I put it in. So I put it in this. This is this little case I got off of Amazon, and it's the Christy Rice brand. And inside, what I did was I cut a piece of watercolor paper up here, and I swatched all of my colors so that I can see, what color coordinates with the paint down below. And so that's super compact. I could take that on the go. I also have this Winsor & Newton on the go. And the great thing about that is that it comes with a water brush inside. So it has a water brush. If you're not familiar with the water brush, there's different ones. There's ones that the top screws off, but this one just pops off. And then you fill this up with water. I have some water in it. And then you can paint, and you can paint on the go because you already have your water. So you can use that. These are great colors. They're more of like basic colors, meaning, your red, yellow, green, blue, basic colors, but they are great. And these are a little different. As you can see, I've got like a really bright pink. I have a beautiful coral and some other colors that, have different granulations and things like that when it comes to watercolor, if you're familiar with watercolor. But you don't need a case. You can just put them on a plate, which is great about watercolor. Like, this is just a plate that I picked up at some store. I think it was like a home store. When I go through and I see plates and bowls and dishes, I'm thinking about art. I'm not thinking about, ooh, I could use that for, a place setting. I'm not. I'm thinking about how I could use that in my art studio. So what's great about watercolor is that it dries, right? It could get a little dusty, so you might want to make sure you don't have any dust on there, but it dries. But I can use this later. All I have to do is grab my spray bottle and spray it, and it reactivates the watercolor, and then I can use it. So you don't need a palette. I mean, you don't need like a case. You can just use a plate and it can be your palette. Okay, so let's move on to brushes. So I do have watercolor brushes that are specifically used for watercolor. And that's important because you want to make sure that you take care of your brushes. So I have a variety here. The two brands that I have in here, this one is Princeton, and this is a Christy Rice set that I purchased. I just love, she had a variety of brushes in her kit, and I believe that is on my website page if you want to go check that out. And welcome. Hi. And then you can see the different brushes that are in there. I like a flat for a flat wash. I love this cat's tongue brush, so fun to play with. One of my favorite is a filbert. The cat's tongue, though, that might be my favorite. And then, of course, a round and that kind of thing. So you want to make sure that you have watercolor brushes to work with your watercolor. However, I do have other mixed media brushes, and it's a variety. I've got flat brushes, round brushes, small, large, a mop brush, all of those different kinds of things for applying the mediums and for applying like inks and acrylic paints and things. So I do have separate brushes for watercolor, and that's really important even when you're working within a junk journal, to make sure that you're using watercolor brushes for your watercolor and the other brushes for all the other things. Okay, so let's dive into additional tools. So I had some questions about, how to about the brushes. So that should answer that one. I would definitely have separate brushes for your watercolor, but your tools, you have additional tools that you can use as well. So I have palette knives, lots of different. I just use the plastic ones. I do have some fancier ones. I don't even know. I don't know where they are right now, but I do have other palette knives, but these plastic ones work great. Gives you really good texture. I also have these Catalyst wedge. See if you can see that on this side. It's just a wedge that you can like smear across the medium or the gesso or acrylic paint. I have this spatula. So those are other tools that you can use as well. Pens and pencils. Obviously, any kind of pens and pencils. I prefer mechanical pencils when it comes to just kind of daily stuff, but I do have tons of graphite with your, H and B and 2B pencils and all of those kinds of things. So you can use any kind of pen or pencil. Keep in mind too, with the mark making, your pens can be, gel pens, the Posco pens, or the Micron pens, to add those fine lines and details, which I love to do. So one of my favorite things is an ink and wash. And that's when you wash the watercolor over and then you go back over it with an ink, or the other way around. You apply your ink and then you go back and you add your watercolor. So either way, an ink and wash is so much fun, and you can use those pens and pencils to kind of give you, the look that you're going for. So I did that with this one in here. So you can go back and you can watch this video. I painted all of the leaves and the containers, and then I went back with a micron pen. It was size 12, and added all of the mark making and the details, which actually just kind of brought it to life as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, you can use those. I also was asked about the water soluble crayons. I do have a few different ones that I use. This is the Cardash and the Neo Color that you can use. I've used those in my videos. I've also used the gelatos. So the gelatos, this set has a little bit of a shimmer to it, which is really nice, but these are water soluble as well. I use that to add color to the front of my DIY journal. And then these are fun too. They are the Distressed Crayons by Tim Holton. So I've got a set of those. And I do want to preface, I have bought this over many, many years. And they've lasted many, many years. I think I've had these gelatos since, I don't know, maybe 16 or 17, 2016 or 17. So they last a long time. If you, obviously, the more you use them, the more you're going to go through. But crayon, any water soluble crayons, which would also include watercolor pencils as well. And then other mark making pens. I talked about the Posco pens and all of those. You've got gel pens. I mean, I have so many different colored pens. The gold, to add gold. Oh my gosh, that's like my favorite. This is also gold. The white Uniball pen. So you can add those white accents on top. Oh, so pretty. Just love it. So yeah, so anything that you can create a mark, you can do on top of your watercolor, which is great and adds detail and just some excitement to your watercolor junk journal. So I do want to touch base on the brayers. So I love the brayers. You can go over watercolor, acrylic. I have them in all different sizes, but you can go over, you can put your mediums on with that. And so have fun with a brayer as well. It gives good texture on top of your page. Okay, and then I just want to talk about the mediums and the adhesives. So your mediums, you this is a Liquitex brand, but this is a clear gesso. So a clear gesso is something that you might want to put on top of your page if you want to protect the page or make it stronger. I have, so that your paint doesn't go through. I have done that in this journal. I have put the gesso down before, and you just kind of have to play around because you may be like, I don't really like that. I would prefer not to have the gesso on there. So just something to play with. But this basically seals the page so that the paint doesn't go through on the other side, which you don't have to worry about if you have watercolor paper. So if you get the watercolor paper, cut that down, then you don't necessarily need to add that. Matte medium. This is like a must if you're going to do junk journals. In my opinion, this matte medium by Golden, I go through it a lot. I go through this a lot because this is what seals everything in. So if I have papers, for example, if I have these papers and I want to tear these papers up and apply them to my page, I'm going to use matte medium to do that. You put a little bit on the bottom, you put a little bit on the top to seal it in. That is what I've used to seal like a lot of this in. So this here is a piece of fabric ribbon. Let me show you. This is the blue version, but it's this fabric ribbon and it's so pretty. I love adding it to my pages. And in order for it to stick, you could use another adhesive like glue dots or any kind of glue, but the matte medium works great. You put a little bit under, a little bit on top. That's how I added these other papers underneath. The stickers obviously would just go down for themselves. I did have some ephemera. I added them with the matte medium. So matte medium is your friend. Should definitely have some of this. Also, when I add any washi tape to my junk journal, I put matte medium over the top. That was another question that came through, and I want to make sure that I talked about that. But the washi tape is made so that you can remove it. And so it doesn't have, it's not like a permanent kind of fixture. So by putting matte medium down on top of it, then it seals it in, which is what I did with this piece here. And I had some people ask about that. So I created this. See if I can get it to open for me. So I created this page. Oh, I think I put it in there backwards. But you can see it on the video. But when I put when I used the washi to connect these pages together, I then went back over it with the matte medium to help seal it in. So it's just a good addition to just make sure that it's secure and that it's going to stay in place. Okay, let me talk about gesso. So I talked about the clear gesso. This is white gesso, and you can put this down. Like I could put this on my my canvas to seal it in, but you can also put it on your pages to seal it in. I find that this is a little more gritty, the clear, and that the white gesso is a little more smooth. You can sand it down. You can sand either one of these with a piece of sandpaper to make them smooth. You can add 2 coats, so you can add a coat, sand it down, add another coat, sand that down, and you should be good. But this is also great just to add to your pages. So I'm going to go back to that page. I just absolutely love that pink page. So I did that with this. I added a little bit of gesso, and I just used my finger. I added a little bit of gesso just to tie the ribbon into the page. And so it didn't look like it was popping off of the page, but rather it looked like it was part of the page. And so you can use gesso in that way too. It is great with a brayer. These two things, it makes a beautiful texture over your page. I've done some pages like that. So you can go check them out. They are on my YouTube channel. Okay. And then I touched base on this a little bit with the paper, but you can use any kinds of scrap paper or anything that you have. One of the things that I really like is like the music sheets of paper. And when you're working in a watercolor junk journal, don't be afraid to use your watercolor and paint on top of things like this too. Old papers and tissue paper and other things that you can paint on. Don't be afraid to use your watercolor on top of those things. Here I have a doily that I painted on top. I didn't put any gesso on it or anything. I just painted directly on there. And then over here, I added my illustration, and I just used glue dots to add that in. And so you can use, pretty much anything to paint with your watercolor. But keep in mind, I had mentioned this a little bit earlier, but keep in mind the water control, because if you add way too much water, then you could tear those papers. If you use watercolor paper, obviously it's not going to tear unless you just rework it over and over, because regular paper doesn't have the tooth that watercolor paper does. Watercolor paper is made with a tooth. They're kind of like grooves, and it holds your paper, and it also holds your paint and your water, but also it's thicker, and so it can withstand a little bit more, um, on top of it. It can hold up to all of the paint and the water and everything that you're going to put on top. And I talked about adhesives a little bit. Glue dots, obviously you can go to the scrapbook section, or like the arts and crafts section of any big box store or on Amazon or whatever, and get glue dots and other glues to add all of your pieces to, including your watercolor paper. So if I have those loose watercolor papers, artwork that I want to add to my page, I usually use glue dots to do that. But of course, you can use, I also have used just a regular glue stick. Glue sticks work good too. A lot of times I will go back over it with a matte medium if I need to, but any gluing or adhesive works. Another thing I have is some tacky glue if I need to maybe put down like a ribbon or something that needs this tacky glue. Honestly, it's usually like a cloth, anything like fabric, cloth, ribbon, I would use the tacky glue. So that is pretty much it, but there is so much more. You could really get lost in the world of watercolor junk journals and introducing so many things. This is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. So additionally, like you could add inks. I've got the Liquitex inks that you can add. I have some of these Archer and Olive inks that you can then put in a pen, and you can use these on top of your watercolor if you want to get super fancy. But I mean, fancy and fun, who doesn't love that? So you can also do that. I have a quill pen that I have used in the past. I mean, it's just endless. I even have this whiteout that I have used. I mean, it's really endless. If you look around your home and see the different things that you have, and you can probably use it. Uh, bubble bubble paper, a saran wrap, bubble wrap, saran wrap. Oh my gosh, you can press flowers. It's endless. It really is endless. So if you have any questions and I didn't cover it, please make sure if you're watching the replay that you go to the description and ask. I will be happy to answer any questions. If you haven't already, go ahead and go to my website. I will put the link below of the page that I have that has a lot of the supplies. I have listed like basic supplies, mark making supplies, and some journals that you can check out. I even have on there a couple of watercolor journals. That's one thing I do on my page all the time. Watercolor journals, uh, so much fun. And these, I don't do junk journals in them, but I just do like watercolor spreads. So I have those on there too if you just want to play around with watercolor, which who wouldn't want to do that? It's so fun. And yeah, so I think that's about it. I will go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you for anyone who joined. And again, if I didn't get to your question, please put them in the description and I will get to it as soon as I can. Until next time, bye.